Hello and welcome to the Home Assistant Podcast. My name's Phil. Joining me as usual, I've got Rohan. How you doing, mate?
Hey, good. How are you?
Thank you. And it's the last release episode for 2025, and we are humbled again to have join us for another year. Frenck, welcome, mate.
Hey, thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you. And as usual, also a special thank you to our sponsors today. This podcast is sponsored by Home Assistant Cloud by Nabu Casa. For a small monthly fee, you'll unlock powerful features like secure, effortless access to your system from anywhere, your choice of voice assistants, offsite backups, and more, all configurable in the UI with no YAML needed. It also supports the development of Home Assistant, ESPHome, and other OpenHome Foundation projects. Click the link in the description to learn more. We'd also like to give a shout out to our Patreon members, including our executive producers, Benny and Rob. You can help support the show and get early access to episodes, all in an ad-free feed. To support the show, check out homeassistant.fm and click Patreon in the menu. So, Frenck, we're doing a little bit, last release episode of the year, so we're doing a little bit different today. We've got a live stream happening both on your channel and our channel, so thank you for sharing that with us today.
Also, I love that you started this whole thing being like, I'm going to start vlogging. I'm done with live stream. So we're like, great, let's get Frenck on
a live stream. Yeah. No, I'm not done with live streams, but the way I did back in the day, right? Those were like 4 to 6 hour long streams where I would just code and be very busy, and doing like keeping energy for that long is pretty exhausting, to be fair. That's not reasonable anymore.
And I think at the time you weren't with Nabu Casa yet. I think you were just doing stuff on the side, right? Just for fun.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So I'm not even sure why I did streaming, to be fair. Like,
but you
just happens someday.
So many people tune into you all the time, right? And it's just jump in, being like, "Oh, cool. What's Frenck doing?" It's literally just you coding something, or you making.
I had points where I had like 350 viewers at the same time. That was pretty intense, to be fair, and keeping up with the chat was pretty troublesome, to be fair.
Particularly when you're trying to concentrate and coding something, right? Like you've got an objective in your mind, right? Like
exactly. No, but in general, if you want to do this stuff, especially things like streaming, and you want to make that like last, then you have to have a cadence in it. Doing it once or twice a week for like a few hours, it is pretty exhausting to do. You guys should know, right? Recording a podcast, if you come out of it, you feel a little bit jolted still and actually pretty depleted on energy. And if you then do that like a few times a week and you try to have a family and a work life and doing this full time now as well, and then going into aside still do a regular streaming schedule, it's just way too much. And need to be honest, right? That's the case. So no more live streaming. That's not going to happen in the future. I'm not, but still, we can produce content in times. I do still do the live streams for the release party at Home Assistant as well, right? And today this one, and that's fine. Like that's fun.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Thank you for joining us. 2025 has been a big year for Home Assistant and Nabu Casa. It's also been a big year for us. Thanks to some extra sponsors coming on board, we were able to release, I think we released 43 episodes this year. Usually we do 2 episodes a month. So, so shout out to our Patreon members and members on YouTube as well.
Thank you
supporting us and everyone that came on as a guest as well, right? We wouldn't have a podcast if it wasn't for all the guests coming on. We got to see some other sides of the story this year as well with our vendors and creators. So that's cool. Shout out to everyone who's also filled in the form on homeassistant.fm to register their interest to come on the podcast. We are blessed. We've got a big waiting list now, so we're going to have a great 2026 full of guests as well.
And keep it going, right? Don't let that stop you. We go through the list. I don't know, pretty much most, if not all, people make it through. We want to hear your stories. We want to understand, right? It's unless you're one of those people that are like, hey, I'm representing this person that has nothing to do with home automation, then please don't. we
get real estate agents emailing us.
Yeah. But other than that, it's please do fill it out and continue jumping on, and we'd love to hear your story.
You know what would be interesting, I think, on this podcast? So if there might be a shot, but if you're listening, you're like, hey, I live in a smart home, but it's built, like, for example, by my partner. Like, please let them know. Like, put yourself on the list, because that's interesting. I would love to hear a few times from people that are, how do you say
Adjacent
that?
to the smart home, would you say?
I wanted to say the word victim, but that's basically not the right term. But something like that, right? If you're indeed
Yeah.
like part of the smart home, but not necessarily you're not the one creating a journey.
You're not the builder, you're the user, kind of.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would be interested in your story. So if you listen in, let them know.
It's funny. I think Phil and I talked about this once, being like, "Oh, what if we get our wives on here and get the?" And I think it was pretty quickly. Like my wife is very like, she is not like public, and she doesn't like doing that kind of stuff. And we're like, absolutely not.
I could ask mine, but I'm not sure if that works. The ninja on. I will poke. I think she says no. But
I feel like yours would be different, because I feel like yours would be broken more than it would. Just running on dev code, running on night. No, I mean, like, you're running on nightlies, you're running on whatever, right? And unless you're running multiple, like your house is running on like a proper production, like, you know.
If you really want to know how my home looks like, my smart home, it looks like. I mean, I'm moving.
Yeah.
If you're looking at the stream, you'll see boxes in the back and such. I'm prepping to move, so I have no smart home right now. But if you wanted to know how it looked like, I wrote a blog about the confessions on my smart home on my website. There you can actually like read the true story of what my smart home looks like.
That's awesome.
It's a mess. Yes.
Well, it's what's this, the old adage, right? It's like the plumber's plumbing, and it's just always a mess. The cobbler's shoes, whatever.
I guess so.
Right? And it's
But I do have good plans for the new place, though. I will like try to do my best to make it an actual working thing. To be fair.
So I guess like to catch people up, like Frenck, obviously you are the lead for Home Assistant, and you know the streamer of creating custom components, and you've now decided the second half of this year that you're going to move house very close to Christmas, and of course I think I learned about this when you put on the socials. If you were moving house and you had a smart home, what would you do with those devices? And I thought that was like a fantastic question. It's one that I have grappled with. You're now in the middle of moving. What did you decide to do in the end? Did you keep the house as a smart home and sell it as a selling point, or did you take the smart home down and sell it as a dumb house?
So honestly, when I recorded a clip, I already decided. But the clip itself was very interesting, right? I think it's a good question. What do you do with a smart home? Is it everybody's place or not, right? If it's everybody's gem, would you sell it as an upsell, or would you take everything out and take it with you? I took it out. I take everything with me. Because I don't know if the potential buyer at that point in time, it wasn't sold yet, would be interested. That's one. Two, it could be a burden too for the buyer, right? They could take it out and throw it out. I would reuse a lot of my stuff that I had. So like this is also about creating potential e-waste and things like that. And last but not least, if somebody comes in this house, the chances they have the level of nerdiness and like stuff we do with Home Assistant, all right, like the geekness we have with Home Assistant, the chances that happening is like very slim, and they would end up asking questions on mine. I'm pretty sure I would become a support desk. I will not. So I've taken everything out before I put it on the market. So everything is normal. I live in a house with actual light switches now for a few months. I feel that I'm going nuts. I'm constantly turning off the lights everywhere because nobody turns them off. It's just so weird, so stupid. Waking up in the morning like it's warm here because the thermostat didn't go down, like things like that. It happens constantly. It's right now that even Mrs. here is like, I miss the smart home actually now. So it's it works. Yes, there's definitely something, and that's part of the power, right? Especially the stuff you generally don't notice, you now start to notice. Like lights that turn off automatically, thermostat that goes down, the all the equipment turning off, and that stuff generally you get used to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I've thought about it a little bit too. Like there's certain things, again, I have no plans of moving right now, but if I ever were to, like, how do I want to do that? And I actually try to think about that when I build stuff into my home, right? So it's I think like stuff like my Lutron light switches and stuff, as expensive as they are, I think it's a lot of effort to change out light switches, and I don't even know how many I have. Right. And so that kind of stuff is like, you know what? It'll just operate as a regular light switch. And in worst case, they can reset it. And if they want to make it smart, they can make it smart. If not, cool. You got a nice looking light switch. Right.
And it's not just light switches. For example, there are also more heavy equipment. Like I have an EV charger.
Yeah.
Because I have full EV, right? And it's one that I build an integration for as well. And I like it a lot. Do you leave it or you take it out? And that's quite like, that needs to go into the fuse boxes and whatnot, right? So that's quite the undertaking to get out again and get it installed in the other side. But in the other hand, the new house, I need to have one too, right? Do you buy a new one? And the new owners, would they actually have an electrical vehicle? Is it like useless for them or not? No, it turns out to be useless for them. I will take it with me and take the effort to like deinstall it fully. But these are like, it's just such a hassle to do actually in a way.
Yeah. And those kind of, and EV chargers aren't cheap either. Right.
No.
It's so, you know, you could include it as part of your sale price or you take it with you. Right.
Yeah, I've given the option, right? You can buy it or just not, because I could buy a new one that cost me a lot of money. So you either like take it over and I will buy a new one and then let it install on my cost. Like I still have the installation cost. I think that's fair. But if you don't want it, then I rather take it with me, because if that thing is useless, it's waste too, right? Like it's repurposing it.
I do like the lens you're putting on that too. Like you don't want you're trying to prevent your buyers from creating more e-waste, right? Like you would rather take the smart home down and prevent e-waste than just taking the easy way out and letting them have it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I like it. All right, so last time before we the last release episode we did was 2025.11, and Home Assistant and has just released some new hardware, the ZBT-2, which is the little brother or little sister to the ZWA2 radio. So it is a Zigbee radio, the next successor of the Home Assistant Sky Connect or ZBT-1. I still like the name Sky Connect. That's just my personal preference. Easy roll off the tongue, right? So now it looks exactly like, it looks a little bit smaller than the ZWA2. I have to admit, once again the setup process of migrating from the Sky Connect to the new version was good. I did have a hiccup. Good. I had one slight hiccup. I did have to set a privilege flag on my Docker container, and once I did that. Oh, loving Docker, man. Yeah.
It's fine. Don't worry. It's a good installation method.
It is. And it's still supported. But yes, once I had set the privilege flag, I was away. It was seamless. I think I had all my Zigbee devices just worked. There was a few blinds, some dodgy Zami Smart blinds that I have connected to Zigbee that needed to be repaired, but I need to repair them anyway, every few months by the sounds of it. So I was cunningly impressed once again. I'm excited to see how that hardware goes. The Connectivity Standards Alliance coincidentally also announced the day after the ZBT-2 launch. Zigbee version 4 is here. The latest Zigbee 3.0 was released in 2014, so almost 11 years later, we've got Zigbee 4. The new Zigbee 4 features included batch provisioning, which would be very welcome, some battery life and performance improvements, obviously some security improvements, and the ability to control devices without a hub using BLE. Frenck, I'm guessing like Home Assistant is so big now. Have you had anything to do on this hardware side, or is Nabucasa and Home Assistant just so like?
So beginning of this year, we made the foundation a real thing, right? In April, in the State of the OpenHome, it was also announced. I don't want to call it a split, because that's not really how it works and how it feels, right? But we moved a lot of people from Nabucasa into actual the foundation, including myself and everybody working on the Home Assistant project. So we work for a nonprofit now, and Nabucasa is its own commercial entity that develops hardware and such. That's basically how you can look at it now. This means that more things like hardware is, in general, less on my personal plate, which is kind of nice, to be fair. I'm a software guy. I've always have been. So that's fine. From the foundation perspective, inside the foundation, we create multiple departments now too. So we have the Home Assistant department, which I'm responsible for, but we also have an ecosystems department, which Marcel is leading. This department does the Matter stuff, the Zigbee stuff, and thus communicates a lot with Nabukasa regarding the ZBT-2 and makes the experience like perfect. Also works on the drivers, on the ZigPy library that Home Assistant uses, and things like that. So for me, I'm less involved in this part, less involved in the ZBT-2. Of course, I watch from the sidelines. Of course, I'm responsible in the end for Home Assistant, and I will look on that part, ensure that that is all up to spec, but yeah, not too much nowadays. I can focus on Home Assistant.
Yeah, well, that's great.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Matter.js has also joined the Open Home Foundation, speaking
Yeah.
of the Open Home Foundation, which is awesome. So
Very
Ingo
good news.
Fischer has donated their Matter.js library to the Open Home Foundation, and he now joins the Open Home Foundation full-time to work on Matter.js, which is
awesome.
great.
So what's going to happen with the? So I know there's a plan right now to replace the existing Matter code with Matter.js, and obviously it's currently certified. Matter.js is not currently certified by the CSA. However, the code Home Assistant is running is. So you guys are going to have to recertify and fine whatever process that looks like.
They have recertification opportunities, yes.
So. Yeah. So what happens with that old code? Are you going to be maintaining both streams, or are you just going to deprecate the old code and then go full bore with Matter.js?
We the code we've based the current stuff on, let's put it that way, has not always been our happiest path. To be fair, we have always juggled a little bit on which decision to take. Should we go one way or the other? And this is also chosen because of the path that has been chosen because of the knowledge and that we have internally available as well, right, to manage such a project. So going with Python, for example, seems like the good way to go because we have a lot of Python knowledge. Although the Python code base we rely on is not that necessarily as good maintained and kept up to date upstream as we wanted it to be. So we always struggle with things that are not perfectly well maintained. At the same time, Matter.js is there doing an amazing implementation, to be fair. So we lack knowledge to work with that. And how this now is done is like now Matter.js is becoming part of the Open Home Foundation, and Ingo starts joining the foundation as well, and being able to focus its time full on that as well. It means we can actually start working on something that makes way more sense and has a good foundation to begin with, and something we can carry and support ourselves now as well. So the end goal and the result here is, in the end, a piece of software that can be used by many, right? Not just Home Assistant, because that's not how the Open Home Foundation works. We want to offer open software for the Open Home. Having this here, it just makes something that everybody can use and everybody can work. We shouldn't be competing on who can control and turn on off the light the best, right? It's the rest of the smart home that matters. The connection to it shouldn't be. So Matter.js and this move will help us build on top of a more stable and more knowledgeable platform. Yeah, platform that we have more knowledge for later on and more control over.
Yeah, because I guess if you own the whole stack at that point, then.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess for the uninitiated, Matter.js is an SDK that allows devices and servers and all that to communicate on the Matter protocol. It's written in TypeScript. The official one from the CSA is written in C++, I believe. So yeah, it's fundamentally a different language.
This Matter.js, and I could be not fully right here, so if I'm wrong, I'm sorry, but this one was partially carried by the CSA as well previously.
It was hosted on their official GitHub.
Yeah, so they supported it as well. So it has always been under good wings, to be fair. And that's nice. We're hoping to give it just a more open and better home even than it already had, which is nice. There's no commercial interest from us in that regard. We can just build on something good and open, which is nice.
Well, what's interesting is the existing implementation today, and I know we've, between yourself, us, Paulus, and whoever, we've had these chats around, how many people are using the existing code, the Matter code that's in the Matter SDK that's in Home Assistant today. And a big part of that is also because it was the most complete Matter SDK that's out there. And through one thing or the other, like other companies are, people building their products are actually testing against the Home Assistant SDK and stuff. What does this mean for them?
I don't think much changed, right? The reason why a lot of these companies use Home Assistant is because Home Assistant itself is open, right? You can just install it, pair something, you can easily debug it, look at the runtime, play with it on every single level. We expose all kinds of advanced features. It's not like always packaged into something like Apple does, for example, right? So even for those developers that allows for a lot of advanced things and like easy insight and debugging, that will remain the same. It will still be a full-blown open source stack, and you can jump in everywhere you want. That doesn't change, I think. Right. No, it wouldn't.
Okay.
I think it would open up more opportunities, maybe.
Right, right. And maybe encourage people to write their own too, right? And it's a little bit of diversity is not a bad thing.
If you're listening and you're like, we're a company for some smart home thing or stuff, please start using Matter.js. It's there. You can use it. There's no limitation to it. And like, let's make it better together. Like, that's way more important than trying to compete on the driver. That's not a way to compete.
No. Agreed.
Something that I found in the Building the Open Home newsletter from Paula, so shout out to that newsletter if you haven't subscribed. Do subscribe to that one. Arduino moving away from open source. I was a bit... I couldn't believe this when I read this. So Qualcomm have acquired the open source electronics company Arduino this year. If a lot of ESPHome users and smart home gadget users will know Arduino, right? Like we fiddle around with Arduino kits all the time. There have been new terms and conditions and privacy policies that have been posted since the acquisition, including forbidding users from reverse engineering the platform without permission, which goes against, open source, open home. Qualcomm have tried to walk back those changes. Wow, this doesn't sound...
It's like, almost fitting for the tune, right? For the cloud tune.
I was literally going to say that, Frenck. It's, what gives, right? So, I mean, as somebody that obviously I have a bunch of ESP32s, we use them all over the place. What does this mean for ESPHome? What does this mean for users like myself, the regular user?
Doesn't mean anything for us. ESPHome will just enjoy here, just work. I think in the long run, I think that ESPHome would go away more from the platform IO stuff. I'm not exactly sure. I know they were working on that at some point. I have no idea what the status is on that. I must be honest, ever since last year, the year before, the growth that we went through, I could not follow up on all that stuff anymore because it's just Home Assistant itself is taking up so much of my time and focus and energy. But at the time, we were working on getting rid of Platform IO, which is underneath it. I have no idea if we've done that or completed that at this point. And I also know like there's more building on top of those IDF drivers.
Right.
Yep.
So life goes on. For
life goes on. Yeah, sure. Absolutely.
It is kind of crappy for people that are building their own stuff based on Arduino, maybe not on ESPHome, but based on straight Arduino, whatever code, right? It's just whatever C++ variant thing.
I think Arduino in general, the Arduino boards have been way less popular in the Home Assistant community ever since ESPHome hit the landscape.
Yeah.
Actually, to be fair, because like you get one of those ESP boards and they're just so good. To be like, we're not experimenting in the lab. We're not using it as a teaching ground in that way right now, which Arduino came from, right? We're building little smart home devices and whatnot. I think the opposite actually will happen. I think ESPHome will slowly, potentially, I think it has the potential to turn more into a teaching platform that Arduino originally started out with, because it is just very open. You can easily configure it with just a little bit of YAML, which is easier to teach, right? There's no code involved, and you don't have to build sketches and whatnot. I do think there's potential there in the long run for ESPHome to basically turn into an old school Arduino, to be fair.
Well, and you can do a lot with the ESPHome, right? You can do functions and stuff where if you need to do some custom whatever,
Yeah,
just do
you
that, right? Like lambdas and like whatever their notation is in there, right? And it's like, yeah, just so you kind of can still do the same thing.
yeah, you could.
Yeah, that's fair.
Okay, well, should we get to the main order of business, which is 2025.12?
It's just a tiny
the,
release. So.
the tiny release. You know,
Tiny thing.
no big changes coming in this release at all. I'll
Be
better
sure
start
to
off
be
with
seated just before we
yeah.
continue. Please sit down.
Let's start off with, I think, the biggest one. Home Assistant Labs is being released as part of this. So a new area to enable experimental or coming soon features for Home Assistant. And the first two labs features are a winter mode, which will add some nice snow effects to your Home Assistant instance. And what have we got? The purpose-specific triggers and conditions. Frenck, I'm glad that you're here for this release episode because I think this is currently is a labs feature, but if it does progress to a new feature of Home Assistant, it's good to have you here to make sure I'm explaining it properly and how we explain that. So I will try and go into purpose-specific triggers and conditions.
Before we go, can I quickly explain labs a little bit on a high level?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
I was going to ask.
Yeah, because Home Assistant Labs is actually born out of the next subject, the purpose specific. Because we often try to ship things in Home Assistant that maybe are not fully ready yet. And it doesn't mean they're not like safe to use, right? Like we do tests for stability and such during our beta periods. Like these are stable features. But in general, we, like recently we had the experimental home dashboard, for example. We stuff these things in their interfaces, and if you update, it's there, right? Even though you might not use it. And then you're like, okay, maybe I want to give it a shot, and where do I go with feedback and things like that? So what we've now have done in order to ship things early but not have this directly affecting you, we now have this labs dashboard where you can see clearly what's currently being previewed, right? So there are preview features that you can opt into doing. And they have clear descriptions, and they have like feedback buttons and bug report forms. And there's a learn more link on where you can learn more about this feature that is in preview. So you have a clear overview of what's going on here and know what you're opting into at that point, because everything is opted out by default. And if you enable it, you get the option to make a backup before it turns on, and it will instantly work. And after the backup is completed, you can directly go and try the feature out. So this gives us a way to actually experiment and iterate with the community. We can ask for feedback. So preview features are generally probably not ready, or we want your feedback before we mark it as like ready for general purpose use, or they might not be complete yet. It could be that we haven't completed all the things in that feature yet that has the feature set we envisioned, right? Where it might be just so big, and that's actually what we're going to talk about in a minute, right? The next subject and the thing we added, the purpose-specific triggers and conditions, it's so huge that it's preventing us to iteratively ship it, and this way we can do that. So these features are stable and safe to use, and the winter mode you talked about, this is actually put into labs for you to play with. It lets it snow. It's super cute, by the way. In my home, they like it, so I keep the thing on at this point. But it literally snowflakes start coming down in your Home Assistant interface. And then if you add and turn on and enable this feature, you have an idea what this does. You toggle it on, it instantly starts snowing. And if you don't like it, you toggle it off again. It's that simple. If you're in the Northern Hemisphere, by the way, you can just wait 6 months and then turn it on later. That's fine too. But this is just a cool little gimmick we've put in to get you used to a little bit of what this is and what Labs does. And we specifically came up and built this part to ship the triggers and conditions. As a matter of fact, I did it overnight. I built the concept overnight just to get the purpose-specific features, triggers and conditions out into Home Assistant to get this concept done. Yeah.
That's cool.
Have you defined some rules on what will be marked for labs and how things move
Yes.
into labs or how they move out of labs? Like, are we going to see things that are going to potentially stay in labs forever, or are there ways need to go out of labs?
There must be an exit plan for it. That's most importantly, right? If you
So
put
it's not
something,
like Google in beta.
no.
There's no exit plan.
No. There must be an exit plan to get something out of there. It could be out, never ship it, right? If the feedback is that it's horrible, there's no reason to put it in general use. It could still iterate a lot. We could change things drastically, maybe based on feedback. So in the end, it's not the goal to put everything in there. We want to still iterate in the open together, right? That's the goal. And we rather ship something fast and often and early into the general interface when possible. But if there's something that is impactful, like architectural-wise, or in this case, automation-wise, then it's just a good safety measure in order it allows us to gather feedback and see if the direction is right. Things like earlier this year, very beginning of the year, the last release of last year, actually, it was the backup feature, right? It had some backlash. We fixed them. That's okay, right? That's okay to get that feedback and to reposition and to be wrong. Like, don't get me wrong, that's very good. I enjoyed that feedback a lot, even though it was sometimes a little bit harsh. But having a labs feature like this would have made that landing soften at that time, right? And we would have learned early and would have been able to iterate better without affecting people, because this at the time affected people. This is exactly what we're going to prevent with this. And this is exactly where the line is drawn, right? How big of an effect would it be if we ship this, and should we iterate on it?
How does a feature being in a lab interact, like in the labs section, interact with the code release that it might be tied to, right? So, because I'm thinking, for example, if something is in a lab, it might be built over a couple of releases potentially, right?
Yep.
Is there, and to me, that's kind of the delineation of beta versus lab. Is lab can span across releases, whereas the beta is just for that one release.
Yeah, beta for us is pure stability testing, right? Is this safe to ship?
Yeah. Whereas in a lab, the feature is safe to ship.
Mm-hmm.
It's past whatever.
Yeah, it does not contain critical bugs, right? It will not like get your system down to its feet.
Yeah. But and then we can just go in, turn it off, and if you do run into some kind of issue. So that's interesting. What about stuff that takes, for example, firmware? So a while ago, Home Assistant played with the on the formerly SkyConnect /ZBT-1. We played with that unified firmware, which never ended up panning out, which is a great reason to have it as a lab feature, right? And you guys marked it as such and whatever, which is great. Would something like that be considered here? Because that is tied to firmware in
we could
specific hardware.
This feature, Home Assistant Labs, the features that are in there, the preview features that it has are integration driven. So each integration can announce like, hey, I have this preview feature. This is its description and whatever meta did or not. That's get exposed. It also means that they get signaled, the integration gets signaled if somebody turns it on, but also gets signaled when it's turned off again. So it can do the reverse and like, for example, upgrade or downgrade firmware at that moment in time to get everything back in order. Disabling an preview feature could have repercussions, right? But these you will be informed of. It will tell you what the result is of turning something on and off again and what that means for your system. For example, the automation changes we're going to talk about in a minute. If you would enable this feature and you would build automations on top of that and you write those nicely down in YAML and then turn off the labs features, yes, of course, those automations will not work because they rely on something that all of a sudden isn't available anymore, right? So these are things that are always into play, and that's also why there's a backup, for example, that's happening. It's also why integrations can listen into and, for example, downgrade firmware if that is turned off again, get you into a working state again. So those hooks for developers are there. As a matter of fact, the whole labs feature has been built in the most extensible way as we always do. If you're having a custom integration and you have a preview feature in there, even a custom integration can announce a lab preview feature and it will show up. So yeah, that's how we do that, right? And that whole thing has been built out like that. It's actually super simple, but extremely useful and complex at the same time. But from a user perspective, you can enable and disable something and see what the repercussions are on the front and having backups in between. That's really helpful. It should not be a scary experience to jump in something like this. And that's something we really took into account here.
That's awesome. That's I think it's a good way to group that kind of testing kind of features, right? Where it's like, hey, try it out, let us know what you think. And from, again, I haven't seen it yet just because, again, I wasn't able to make that last creators call, but I haven't seen what it looks like. But, you know, from there, it sounds like it's just, you can give feedback, you can give whatever. And if it's not good, then be open with it and say, hey, this is why I don't think.
Yeah, that way we can learn too,
feature,
right? Like we cannot ever ship features that everybody likes. Like that's simply put. Everybody has different use cases and opinions. But in the end, we want to see the general like emotion people have around this, right?
Are you guys gathering statistics around that kind of stuff? Obviously, opt-in, whatever. So how many people have this feature turned on? No. That might
No.
be kind of helpful though, right? It's
Sure, but in the end, like we don't even know exactly how many people are using Home Assistant.
yeah, that's fair.
Privacy is one of the core values, always has been. It's local control and privacy first is the tagline, and we truly live by that. I will like stand ground for it. I don't care if you turn it on or off, but if you find it helpful or maybe not, then the feedback would be really helpful and appreciated. I think that's more important than numbers, to be fair.
All right, so purpose-specific triggers and conditions. So it introduces new ways to trigger automations or assign conditions to them. So if you have been using Home Assistant for a long time, and using YAML as your automations, you'll be very familiar with the numeric state trigger, numeric state conditions, and this trigger state and the state conditions. That they've been there for a while, and they still stay today. But this new feature flag, or this new Home Assistant Labs feature, introduces some new trigger and condition types, which are more granular and intuitive, which I will agree with. So, for example, when triggering a media player that changes to playing music or with volume control, for the volume changes, you would look at a state change event to either playing or the numeric state change event of the volume changing. Now you can actually target the media player once you've enabled this feature through the UI. You would say, okay, and this enabling this feature does change the UI, which we'll explain in a minute. You would target the media player, and then there would be an action. You know, the media volume has changed, or the state of the media player has changed to this. This I think has made my logical brain like thinking of, okay, yes, this is how I would want it laid out, right? Like I've struggled with the current automation editor, and I do have some technical questions that I do want to ask you, Frenck. So, yeah,
Going back a little bit. Yeah, I don't know. Like if you, I find it hard to explain this myself as well. Still at this point, and while we're recording this, I'm still working on the release notes as well. What the text is in there, I'm not 100% fully happy with the flow of things. But in the end, we've been doing a lot of automation changes lately, right? We added the sidebar, for the split view, the redo has been added. Last release, we changed the way targets work, the target selector. So you had like an extra window to walk through your house and select the right targets, and that overview, which targets affected actually which entities, to make it more insightful. If you target like turn on lights in the living room area, which lights would actually be affected and turn on and off. Things like that. So we have made a lot of changes, and these were actually all precursors to what we're doing today and what's coming to be here. If we do and talk about actions actually have a few things that we all already like. Turn on the lights in the living room is something you can do, right? You can do a turn on action and point to the area of your living room, and it will turn everything on there. But this is something specific to actions, which is kind of weird because you probably want to do the same thing into triggers and conditions as well. Are the lights in my living room on? Or in case of a trigger, is there a motion detected in the hallway? If you have multiple of those motion sensors, you want to do maybe stuff like that. So that's feature number one. We're going to bring target support like actions have to both triggers and conditions. So you can actually say, I want to be triggering something if a motion is detected, although that's a bad example because that doesn't land in this preview feature yet. But if a light turns on in the living room or a media player in the living room starts playing, in my case, I have multiple media players in my living room. If any of them would start playing, I want to trigger this automation. You can do that now. And this is a very nice concept because if you keep your home organized into areas or labels, even like Christmas decorations, Christmas is coming, I can definitely see a Christmas decoration label, right? You could trigger or build conditions and actions now around such a thing, which means that you no longer have to change the automation. I could add more Christmas decorations, assign that label to it, and it would just, the automation would just pick it up. And the changes will be picked up immediately as well, right? If I add a motion sensor or a Christmas decoration or whatever not, the automation would immediately adjust without me touching it even, just because I categorized it as such. So that's feature number one, basically, that we're doing, and I'm really stoked about that concept. The other concept actions had, which triggers and conditions didn't have, is the concept of way more granular. If you go into an action, you find like the light that turn on. There's not a generic one that you need to program. We had that back in the day. Back in the day, we had call service, and then you selected the service. And about 2 years ago, we spec'd the service layer out of it. We now have a whole bunch of actions, right? And it feels so natural. I want to turn on this light. I want to turn up this thermostat. I want to start the vacuum cleaner. I want to play media. That's the thing, the action you want to take. But if you go into triggers, and now you want to trigger because of a volume changes of your media player, then all of a sudden you have to know how the state machine works. You have to know you need to select a numeric state trigger. You have to know you need to select the volume attribute. If you want to do below and above, you actually need to know that the volume attribute in the state machine is between 0 and 1. So for 50%, you have to do 0.5, which is super confusing. This is not anyone would ever understand. And you see people struggle with this coming to home assistant as well, right? They feel immediately making their first automation so difficult because they have to know what state triggers are and numeric state triggers are. And they're amazing and they're not going away. Don't worry if you're listening in right now, what's happening. All your existing automations keep working. If you love the state trigger, please, by all means, keep using it. But we're going to add, just like actions have, a whole lot of triggers in our spectrum here. Triggers that can do things like motion has been detected or the media player started playing. And those purpose-specific triggers, and thus also conditions, make it much more simpler to configure. So let's say the motion detected trigger would actually be delivered, and I hope it will be in next release preview feature. But just imagine how that would work, right? If motion is detected in the hallway, turn on the lights in the hallway. That would be your automation. There's no entity in there. There's no thing in there that actually is subjected to change. And if you change your hallway and change out the lights or change out like your motion sensor, it doesn't matter. It remains just like if light is detected in the hallway, turn on lights in the hallway. It's that simple. And I think the way we think about automations will drastically change because of this. We're more thinking about what is happening and what would be the result of this, more than what's the value in my state machine.
Yeah. And what I like about this is it's more like it's what you said initially about being able to add or remove or swap out devices and do those kind of things, right? Like, which you can kind of do that today with labels, right? Because that's kind of how I have my automation set up today, even
But
prior
not to
to
your triggers.
this, but not to my triggers.
Yes,
Right.
exactly.
And I think that's really nice because my triggers are still sometimes listed, right? Like, hey, I have this, I have this, I have this, and I trigger ID, and then I filter to whatever. Right. So this might be a much cleaner way of doing this, I think, right? And I really like that part of this.
If you have ever tried to automate with an event entity, like doorbell press on an event entity, you probably will have known the struggle that if you like set the specific trigger for this trigger type, doorbell pressed, for example, it would like only work the first time and not the second press because you need to know how the state engine works in order to do this right, because you need to detect what type of press was done in your condition, not in your trigger. Most people struggle with this one. We have so much documentation around this and so many comments, and people still don't understand it. And that's okay. I get it too. It is difficult, but you shouldn't have to care. So we are now going to make a trigger, also not in this release. The PR is open, it didn't make it, but it is pending. We want to make a trigger that makes this easy, right? Is the doorbell has been pressed, play a sound on media player. That's what we want to do in the living room area, because I don't care which one, right? Do just announce it on these floors, for example. Things like that we want to do. And that is so much more natural thinking. And I think it will be so much easier for new users coming to Home Assistant as well.
Yeah, that's really, and obviously the YAML structure will have to be reverse compatible, as well as
Sure, we
the
always have.
new version will. And i.e. if I'm just thinking, because I really love the copy paste ability into Home Assistant now, right? Copy a YAML, just paste it into there, and it just all shows up. So that'll be really nice too there.
So if you remember, then that gives you an idea how long we're already playing with this. I think it was earlier this year, maybe even beginning this year, we changed the syntax of the YAML a little bit. It became trigger, and the platform became trigger in YAML, right? It became more natural. And that change is actually leading already into this, because we're now in the syntax where you normally say action column, which previously, by the way, was surface, where you put in light.turn on. We now have trigger light.turned on. It happened. And in the condition, we have light.is on, because you want to know if that's the case, right? So even in YAML, we try to make the syntax really natural into how you feel and how it sounds and how it should be. It's very similar to how actions work, except the naming is a little bit different, because is it on? That's what you want to know. That's the condition. Did it turn on? It turned on, so trigger it, or turn it on as the action, because I want to turn it on. Right? So that's the naming has been adjusted, and the syntax is very familiar. It's very similar to what's already there, because we already did that in the past. We already started prepping for that, so it doesn't feel weird at all.
It's well thought out, right? It's like you had this vision for like a year, and you're like, okay, this is how we're gonna get there.
Yeah, and I have to give credits to JLo a lot here, by the way, because I always wanted triggers to be in the UI. JLo took it a step further with the smashing it back, and now for the actions back in the day, and now driving this part from a product end and automation in making this more natural. The poor fella has been working with all these, figuring out all these triggers and conditions we want. And circling back to the labs, by the way, the amount of triggers and conditions we come up with in a Home Assistant in this way, right? Light turned on, light turned off, motion detected, gas leak detected, water detected, media player volume changed, the boiler starts heating, the temperature on the thermostat has been turned up or down, or a sensor between some range going across a range, or whatever. The amount of triggers and conditions we can come up with is insane. For actions, we have done this for years already. It has natural grown. But for triggers and conditions, not. And this is where labs comes in, because we cannot build and ship all these triggers in one go. So if you now turn on labs, you will not have a complete feature set. There are tons of triggers and conditions missing that we still want to add. So hence, this is a perfect candidate for a preview feature. The feature set is not there yet. And for the new triggers and conditions we've added, we want to know if they're feature complete.
And give that feedback, right?
Yes.
Saying, hey, you guys forgot, I don't know, gas detected, right? You mentioned that, some of that. So
I do want to ask a bit of a technical question. It's something that's, we've had some listeners, come in over the years and ask us too. So in software development, there are many ways to skin a cat. And we've seen it, Bidrako's done so much optimization. We hear about all these optimizations he's done in the code, right?
He still does, but at this point, we gotta assume.
In some way, when we're creating Home Assistant automations in YAML, we are creating, we're coding to a certain degree. does this the purpose-specific triggers at least, will, instead of now us triggering on a generic state event from the state machine, we're now triggering only on, for example, a media player changing its state. Does that make, in the underlying hood of the automations, does that make these automations more optimized? Like instead of every trigger having to look through the whole state machine for its event, it's now needing to look just for its specific type of trigger?
I can answer this. There are two things to this. First of all, I know most of the triggers we're introducing are actually under the hood just relying on the state trigger, right? They're building on top of the state trigger and making it easier. To give you an example, many people struggle with unavailable and unknown data and unknown states and triggering and toggling between those states from, to, and then not from, and not from, not to. Things like that we extract away. We're not going to ask you for attributes in these new triggers or for like handling certain unknown states and things like that. We'll all take care of that for you in the same default way. So you just get triggers on the doorbell press, for example, and not have to think about how to handle that and how to handle unavailable and things like that. So in that way, they are made easier that you don't have to know the quirks. You just want to trigger and ensure it triggers on those cases they actually set. So it's more, you don't have to know the state machine. Again, back to that one. So that's one. The second one is because they are now extendable and can be provided by integrations, because it's literally the light integration that provides the light triggers and the sensor integration that will provide the sensor triggers, right? And the media player integration that provides the media triggers. It also means that other integrations can now provide triggers and conditions. So let's say your favorite energy supplier has, I know there's some country, I use this as a sample quite a bit, but there's a country somewhere with an energy supplier that has 1 hour of free energy every day, and that's probably then the cheapest hour.
Australia, we're about to get 3 hours for free every day.
Right. But the moment of the day can change in this particular case. So you not always know when it's the cheapest moment. Even if you have something like, I want to have the cheapest moment, there are providers like, I'm with Tibber, and Tibber actually knows which moments are cheaper. They could now actually, as the integration, expose specific triggers for their integration into the UI that triggers when the energy is cheap. So if you then build an automation to charge your car, it could be, use this Tibber trigger or whatever energy supplier you have, that triggers when the energy is at the lowest price, and then start charging my car. Things like that are now possible. So this opens up tons of doors for everybody that builds integrations to make more purpose-specific triggers. And what we want to do right now to prevent everybody like building a load of triggers for things that we should deliver from the baseline, we are building it for every building component we have, like light, like binary sensor, and all those things you're familiar with, climate. That stuff should just be provided by us and already working out of the box. And that should be the baseline feature set. And if there's something that we do not cover, an integration could cover for it themselves. That could be very specific to them.
Would you have a recommendation, like if we were writing an automation, and we're getting on a bit of a tangent here, is there an efficient way to write an automation, like to use less resources when needing to trigger or
I actually saw an example 2 days ago on a Dutch forum, Tweakers. I saw an example from somebody who's tried to debug their automations, and they actually had a very big trigger, like triggering a whole bunch of entities, and then in their action they had to choose, and there were 2 cases in the choose that were catched, and the others will always go to default, which was empty, meaning they would get a lot of things triggered and the automation would run a lot of time. And his complaint was it's not working, but I cannot see why, because if I look in the traces, I will see all traces going to the default, which makes sense because that's a lot of stuff that records, right? So how to effectively deal with automations? Like try to make your triggers specific if you can. And if you can, like look at your conditions, because conditions are often overseen by many people, but a condition actually determines if the automation should run, yes or no. So if you stop those runs at that point because the condition doesn't match, then you also prevent like the thing from being triggered, you prevent it from being a stack trace recorded, makes your debugging way easier. You can also test your triggers up front, right? And your conditions up front. But you can still run it forcibly by passing the conditions, so you can still test it. I think that's something that I would definitely recommend. I'm not the example of building automations. I am somebody who builds automations in a different thing. I should blog on a different way. I should blog about that once. But I'm more somebody who tries to build automations in such a way that it doesn't matter when you trigger the automation. It will always ensure things are in the right state. For more technical people, I've originally back in the day contributed to Ansible. I'm very much used to that concept. And it's a concept I also apply inside of Home Assistant in my automations. It's a different way of automating. I'm not sure if it's better. But if you want to make your automations efficient, don't trigger on too much and make sure you put in conditions to not like that. But in general, automations are not necessarily a performance bottleneck for us.
Okay, that's good to know.
Right.
I know it's something that's come up a few times. And I was like, I wonder if there is like an efficient way to write that automation. That's good to know. All right. Well, if you're looking to upgrade smart home, you can't go past Zeus. Zeus have just released their brand new Z-Wave long-range siren and chime, the ZSE 5800LR. You can trigger audio and visual LED alarms based on smart sensors or other conditions, and the audio speaker plays your own files for personalized automation, or there's a selection in a preloaded library. Zeus are an official Works with Home Assistant partner, helping Nabu by providing long-range devices for testing the new Home Assistant Connect ZWA2 radio. Zeus offer a range of affordable and innovative devices, including water leak sensors, water valve controllers, smart plugs, and scene controllers. Their new Zen 78 high-power relay allows you to control and monitor higher load appliances up to 40 amps, which is perfect for pool pumps, air compressors, and other high-power outlets. Their Black Friday sale and Cyber Monday sale is on now and runs through to December 9th with the biggest discounts on most Zeus products with free shipping for orders over $69. So for the best prices on all Zeus products, head over to thesmartesthouse.com. That's thesmartesthouse.com.
Agnes, by the way, from Zeus, she's such a great person, to be fair.
She's awesome.
She's so awesome. It is.
I just saw they just did some stuff with the Z-Wave Alliance that like they just had a big conference and whatever, right? So they were headlining it. It's actually cool to see how Zeus is kind of on top of all of these things, right? Like again, they work with you guys for obviously they're a certified partner there.
Works with Home Assistant partner. Yeah.
They're running a lot of stuff for the Z-Wave Alliance and stuff like that, and it's like, okay, that's pretty cool. This company that came out of not seemingly nowhere. I mean, they've been around for quite a while, but they
have the right mindset. The mindset we all should embrace. To be fair, in an open community like we are, and that's also why they're in the program, right? To be fair, like if you want to be in the Works with Home Assistant program, you have to be a cute community player, and they are, and definitely like aligned with our values. So. That's amazing.
For sure.
Talking about the automation changes, by the way, because we skipped one important topic here. There's one change that's not discussed yet. If you enable this new purpose-specific trigger, not only will the triggers and conditions change, but the way you add your triggers and conditions and actions will change. There's a new dialogue.
That's true. You have the UI has changed. I did mention that sort of, and what said we'll go into it, but yeah, we did completely skip over that. You're right.
Yeah.
The new UI, so it does move things around, completely shifts things around so that it's more logically laid out. It's more like a hierarchy, I would say. So you start off with your areas, your labels. Did that have to go through a lot of like a design process to sort of decide on?
Yeah, user research and design in general, but this is more how you approach it. So besides thinking about what you want to do, right? I want to trigger when motion is detected. There's another part here, and that's where. And that's often where your journey starts, right? You want to turn on the lights in the living room. That's your purpose area. Finding the right trigger condition and navigating to and through a huge list. If you look at actions right now, you have to know the domain. Right, you're looking for the climate domain because you want to do something with climate because it's the climate entity, although you're actually looking for your thermostat. It's a little bit confusing at times, but it's probably more what can I do with this device or what can I do on the floor? So if you now open up the dialog you have, there are multiple tabs. So the old tab of just list my triggers and list my actions, or list my conditions is still there. And there's also a tab for building blocks. Those are still there too. The default tab now, however, is the target. Because everything now supports targets, you can start by selecting your target. In this case, for example, living room, or this specific Sonos media player in your house. And as soon as you selected that one, the list of triggers and conditions available will be filtered down to give you, like, this works best for this one, and these are available for the thing that you've selected. Meaning you don't have to go through a huge list of available items. You just get the items that are applicable to the thing you want to automate with. It's just another way to approach it, right? Instead of approaching it like, I want to turn on lights, you're like, hey, I have this living room lights, and then you get like, okay, you can turn it on, off, or change the brightness, for example.
Right.
It's the turned around approach. Instead of going from, I want to do this service action call, you're going from, I want to do something with this device. What can I do with it?
And I think that's what I really struggled with the current UI. Like, you would select a device, you would just get like completely irrelevant stuff, right?
Yeah.
Or you would you go the other way and you try and choose, all right, where do I go to find this, right? It was easier for me to go, let's just go back to entity ID and action, right? Like, I can undo it that way. This is like, just give me the relevant things, right? I don't care about that random service call that I never use that's there for a legacy reason. Just care about, is the thing.
Make the navigation better. So it depends a little bit on how you want to navigate your home and how do you want to add this. But both are now in there. Some people just like to filter down. And I think one of the next steps, maybe in the future, but I'm now speaking up front for the ideas we have, but it would be even possible to say, like, this device specifically, we know it's a 3D printer. This is more interesting than that status light toggle that's on there. You want to maybe have the triggers for the print job finished is probably the most important one. Push that one to the top, right? Recommend that. Or we see stuff in this automation already happening. It's a very light handled automation. The automation triggers for lights probably should be shown more earlier than, so we can, this is something you use often. We now have way more abilities to do stuff around your home that are more relevant. We know what you're looking for. If you drill down through your home, we can offer better suggestions in the future too. But that's not there yet. Right now, it's just like, hey, I have this device, I have this entity, what can I do with it? And you will only see the triggers, conditions, and actions that are relevant for that specific thing you've selected. And if you add then, at that point, by the way, it's also automatically pre-filled in as a target. So if you do living room and you select lights on and you add that trigger, it will already be the living room configured in that trigger for you.
Yeah.
In one shot.
And then obviously you can back out of that if you want to make changes, whatever.
Yep.
Nice. All right. Dashboards. My favorite topic. So dashboards has gotten quite a bit of love here too. And so first of all, you can set a system-wide default dashboard, which is, I know people use it different ways. That I've been looking for this for a long time.
Yes.
I think it was either you and me, Frenck, or myself and Paulus that were talking about this, or maybe all of us were. Where
I'm pretty sure
like,
we talked about it at some point, yes.
Yeah, about
a few times.
Why we do it on a user-based setting. It might have actually even been on the podcast. So I was like,
it was worse. It was a device-based setting, actually.
Sorry, yeah, it's a device-based and user-based, right? And it's like, so for me, I was like, I know, but I hate this.
You make the most beautiful default dashboard for your house, right? And then you have to like configure it everywhere.
Right. And then I get a new device and it's just that giant list of every single thing I've as the default, right? So I really like the fact that
my app right, if I'm on my Tailscale network or my home net Wi-Fi,
it will change.
It opens a different.
It's true. It's so stupid.
Thing.
Yeah. I really didn't like that, and I've seen the same too, Phil. And it's like, So now you can set it on a system-wide, hey, you know what? By default, everybody gets this dashboard, right? And then you can make your one-off change on like a specific tablet device or something, right? And do it that way. So it's like, hey, I've got my, I don't know, my tablet in my kitchen. Great. Maybe that doesn't need my whole home thing. Maybe I only care about certain things. Whatever. The other thing, as well, tying back to our labs piece that we were talking about, is stuff's not marked experimental anymore because that's where labs would be, and the home dashboard has gotten promoted to a full and whatever nice big feature, real feature.
Yeah, it's general available. Yes, correct.
Yeah. So that is pretty nice too. I love the home dashboard personally, and it's just, I think it's just, it gets me 95% of the way I need to be, and then I just tweak the extra 5, right? Well, I mean, sorry, go
It's
ahead.
95% is definitely the goal, right? You want to build a dashboard that is out of the box working. I think, especially if you, again, start out with Home Assistant, you start to adding some devices, you're already overwhelmed, and like having something there that's like already like 95% of the way at least gives you like that. And if you're at some point ready to build like your own fancy dashboard, and our community built some darn fancy fast dashboards, to be fair, like that's good. You can still do that. No, I really like it. One of the things that we haven't done yet, but hopefully will land in the upcoming releases, is making this new home dashboard actually the default home dashboard, because that's not the case yet, right? The default dashboard is still the old-fashioned one. That's actually a bastard child from the state dashboard back in the day, if you remember that, pre-Lovelace. Yeah, pre-Lovelace, indeed. Long time ago, but that's still there, and it's actually not the best experience ever. So the new dashboard is definitely better.
It's overwhelming.
It is overwhelming. Yeah, that makes no sense. So I think there's a lot of improvements in here. I think this dashboard indeed brings you 95% of the way and makes a good candidate for being a default. Although even for this one, we're not 100% done yet. There are some things we still want to do, but it's nearing completion. And the step that needs to be taken care of as well is, how do you make it new default dashboard for, well, for new users, it's easy, right? For new users, it can just be that experience. For existing users, you don't want to break experience either. So we need to look into patterns and how we can migrate people if possible. So these are things we're looking into right now. But the new home dashboard is there. If you want to use it, try it. Let us know how it goes and how it feels. And yeah, even this release, by the way, has a bunch of new features for the home dashboard, including a new sidebar in the home dashboard. I like that one. It's called For You.
It's called a what? Oh, like the
For You.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's, and that, if I remember correctly, that's based on like what it thinks you're going to do next, kind of deal, right? And it's like,
that as well, but also like weather and things like that are in there, and some common things. It's just a feed of your home, basically. That's interesting for you.
Correctly, the For You sidebar can be added to other dashboards as well, or is it only for this?
It can. It involves YAML fiddling right now, but you could. Maybe in the future we can make that better and more pluggable. But right now we're happy we've got it in here. You could copy it into other places, but that's you need to fiddle a bit, but it can be done.
There's also an undo feature that's been copied over from the script editor as well. Yeah.
Talking about quality of life improvements here. This is a good one.
Yeah.
Undo 75 changes or restore them with a single click. So I don't know how often people, or how bigger changes people are making to their dashboards in one sitting, but 75 should be ample.
Can I ask, where did 75 come from? Was that just an arbitrary, like, we're like, yeah, let's do 75, or like why not 74, or why not 76?
It's one of those questions. Like unlimited is also not an option, right? You need to like have somewhere. I don't know where 75 is coming from. It sounds like a nice number.
Fair enough. Yeah, I was like, all right.
If you would like to have a different number, feedback is a way to go. I honestly don't know. It's not nice and round. Why not 100?
Yeah.
Why not 50? Yeah. Why not?
Yeah. That's funny. Like when you use this right now, when you use the areas dashboard right now, there's a chance that your current favorites might disappear in the release and then have to get re-added, right? And it's
So while it was experimental, we're still dealing with format changes in how we store things. The way it works now is a little bit different. And during this change, you might need to reconfigure them. You can hit the top right button. There's a way to configure the panel and re-add them at that point. But that's part of the experimental things that can happen, right? It's unfortunate, but yeah, that's the case. A little bit of a heads-up warning there.
That's cool. I mean, that's really all there is with the dashboards piece. But I'm really happy to see that this is a direction that Home Assistant is choosing to go in. I know even when this was initially released to the creators, when we first talked about it, I was like, I don't know why this isn't a default, right? And I think you and Paulus were like, yeah.
It's true, right? And then again, like talking for people that have been around a long time, if you think about back at the stage dashboard, if you've been in that era, if you wanted to group things in your state dashboard, like a couple of lights, and you would actually have to make an actual light group, basically, as we call it today, to make them appear as a group in the UI. And if they were in two groups, it would be weird. And you had to hide things in your customizations or to hide things from your dashboard. It was crazy. There was no way to actually form your dashboard besides like manipulating the system.
And all in YAML.
All in YAML, indeed. But it was fiddling with the devices and entities in order to form your dashboard. And right now, we drag and drop. Do you know how long it took for drag and drop to be there and how everybody was always screaming for that and how normal it is nowadays to do that? You just hit edit, you start dragging and dropping something together and building out those sections and whatnot. It's so good. Where dashboard came from and looking at dashboards right now, wow. It's such a night and day difference.
It's funny because if I were to use the original dashboard today, I think that would actually be a barrier. Like if I was a brand new Home Assistant user, and I'm talking entirely just myself here, if I was to use that today, I would absolutely just be like, nah, I'm going to use something else instead of Home Assistant, right? From this original states dashboard. Just it is extremely overwhelming, and the reason I say that is because it's, I don't know, I guess as I mature now, it's like I don't have time to sit there and hide stuff, group stuff, like do those kind of things, right? And it's funny, you were talking about a grouping, and I had entirely forgotten that was a thing, right? Until you just mentioned it, right? And it's like, yeah, this is a lot of work, right? Just to get a somewhat usable dashboard.
I think we should go back and maybe like would be a good live stream, Ron, just to install Home Assistant 0.68 because that's the one that got the authentication and usernames and password. Before that didn't even exist. So we got user accounts in 0.68. I think it would be fun to install that one once and see how far we can get it.
Yeah, let's do that.
It will be fun.
And go through, manipulate it one by one.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. Live stream opportunity. So 2025.12 brings in a new power sensors and energy sensors to the energy dashboard. This is probably, I really love the, what are we calling it now? The purpose-specific triggers, but the new power sensors in the energy dashboard, I think, are my favorite in this release. So you can now track real-time grid consumption, see how much you're exporting back to the grid, and watch those watts flow in real time. The power configuration options now appear alongside the energy settings for each source or device, and new power graphs let you see the power consumption throughout the day. So I've got a few IKEA and Z-Wave smart plugs around the house that have always had energy monitoring that have appeared in the energy dashboard. I now went into my energy dashboard, found those devices, and then just flicked over and added the power entities that are also exposed from those devices, and it's cool, right? Like I can now see in real time what's using. Like I could walk into a room and the lights would turn on, and I could see the lights are now drawing power. And it's all in that Sankey chart, and you can, if it's got hierarchy, you can see it goes in from this room to that device. It is really like I need more energy monitors around the house. That is what I'm getting out of this. I'm looking into Shelly relays, power monitors for my switchboard. But yes, I need more data. And this one feature alone has told me that. Just to watch things move around the house would be cool.
Your electrician, sorry, Sparky, is going to be very happy with you. It's,
It is one of the most requested.
To college. Yeah.
It's going to get the kids to college. It is though one of the most requested features by the community for the energy dashboard. And I think energy dashboard in general didn't get the attention it deserved to have. To be fair, in the last few years, we've been busy, as you've seen, but we're now putting a little bit more effort into the energy dashboard as well right now. Petar is really working on that on my team. This guy, he has done all the stuff with the graphs and the Sankey chart. He's the original creator of the Sankey chart, as well as when it was still a custom integration or a custom component, no, a custom card, all those terminologies, by the way. Anyhow, it needs a little bit of love, and the showing power usage in your energy dashboard always has a little bit of weird thing. How do you configure that? Also, it's an energy dashboard, not a power dashboard. We might rename it to utilities at some point, I don't know, but seeing power there was just requested a lot because it tells you something about what's happening right now instead of what happened, right? Energy usage over time is by far the most interesting thing because it tells you something about like your cost, your effects you have on the environment, things like that, and how you can do better. But what's happening right now was also interesting because it tells you a little bit like, why am I using that much energy right now? That's more answering that question. Having that in there is very good. It just helps you. Things like that I really want to see over time is maybe what is my baseline usage, whatever that entails. But there are apps in there, like I don't even know how to answer that question what baseline usage is, but what is the lowest point of energy I have? That would be your standby usage, right? What's the lowest dip I have in a day? If that is 200 watts, what can I do to lower that? Because that's 200 watts I use throughout the day, right? Being able to get that down to 150 at some point means I'm like having 50 watts throughout the day less, basically. Where's that coming from? So these kind of learnings you can get from power, and that helps with energy. So I'm very excited to see what's going to happen with the energy dashboard and how we're going to structure this and iterate on this in the upcoming months, to be fair.
And also added to the energy dashboard is downstream water devices as well. So now if you are tracking water usage in your home and you can somehow track the devices in your home to a level, you can now see that similar to the way the energy flow goes. And I'd love to see if you've got some devices you're using to track water in specific places in the house, the water flow. Yeah, hit us up, feedback@homeassistant.fm, and let us know what devices you're using, because I think that something that needs.
I would love to install a droplet on the pipes that go to my shower. Yeah, droplet is one of those devices, and then see how much water goes to the showering, like compared to the rest and stuff like that.
Yeah,
and you can do time. Is my shower being used the most? If it's the time my kids are showering, then maybe you can put some automations in. Okay, you showered too long today. You don't get to use your Nintendo as much.
Put a speaker in the bathroom that starts shouting automatically so you don't have to. Stuff like that.
Automatically turn off the heater, the water heater, just a lot of automation ideas coming out of this episode. And how to torture your children.
Actually, yes. Yeah.
It's I love how the three of us just went full dad mode right now, being like, okay, so here's how we're gonna police water usage in my house.
Automatically reduce screen time if you shower too long, stuff like that. Yes.
Yeah.
That's right. That's cool. Are we seeing a lot of water usage? I know power and like electricity monitoring is becoming very common these days. Are you seeing the same, Frenck, on the water side or even natural gas or anything like that?
I think it really depends on the country you're in, whether water costs money or not. Like water in here in the Netherlands is just pretty cheap. It's still, you have to pay for it. But in many countries, it's available for free or more sparse in some others. And the same goes for energy dashboard, right? I was in Iceland in February and we're talking about the energy dashboard. And one guy raised his hand like, we don't care. Like we have thermal energy enough here. We don't care about like energy usage that much, right? So that depends. Every single thing depends on the country.
Yeah, that's interesting. All right. Android. So starting with app version 2025.11, you can now add entities to widgets and Android auto favorites directly from the entity's more information dialog. Wow, dog. Uh, that's nice. So you can just go in and say, yep, 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 and add it to Android Auto, right? As you go through different entities. And that is pretty nice, actually. I really like that. So in a couple of taps, you can just say, hey, how can I quickly control these entities on the home screen and then have them as favorites?
As an Android user, it's a blessing. Like the existing way was just an absolute pain.
I'm not an Android user, so I cannot benefit from this feature yet.
Same.
Bruno, if you're listening, please.
Try Apple
Anyhow,
that's fine. You'll
but
get it.
the nice thing about this is the add to feature already existed. As in, you can add something like we want to extend this more, like add this entity or use this entity in your automation, add it to your dashboard, things like that. But the fact that the interaction that's interesting here is that the mobile app can say like, hey, I have some things you can add to too. And if you click that, you get a more unified experience. That add to all of a sudden mixes the reality of Home Assistant with your device that you're on. You can add it to your Apple, or sorry, not your Apple Watch, to your Android Watch or Samsung Watch or whatever you have, your Pixel Watch. Pixel Watch is right. I'm such an Android noob, sorry.
The Galaxy Watch. There's probably I think there's a Motorola Watch.
The Galaxy Watch, something else, Earth Watch. You can put it on there with the app button, and it's just nice to see that interaction, having your app affecting basically Home Assistant to make it more integrated there.
Yeah.
So I think that's a cool addition. I hope to see more of those seamless integrations.
Yeah. I just recently got an Apple Watch, so I've been enlightened. I've always hated Apple Watches, and then I've actually gotten some before, and then given them to my parents or whatever. I'm like, I hate this, and then I just got one now and use it for sleep tracking, use it for a lot of that kind of stuff. That is actually stuff I would love to bring into Home Assistant and actually have automations on for like, hey, now is a great time. You have an alarm set for 7:30. You know what? It's 7:15 and you're in a perfect cycle right now to wake you up now kind of thing, right? And I'd love Home Assistant to be able to do that kind of stuff. But I think
it is health data, right? How good are you with exporting the health data of everyone in your home into
I'm not.
any system at all, even a Home Assistant?
Yeah.
A good question. I don't know.
I am not. That's what you're asking.
No, I mean, like sleep health data. Like I have a sleep mat. I have one of those with things for sleep analyzers.
Yeah.
Beds. But they're interesting to trigger on, like if somebody is in the bed or not. Mostly.
Yeah.
To be fair, but like exporting actually health data, something else. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. Even if in Home Assistant, it's not because I don't trust it. It's more like it doesn't need to be there.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I get that. It would be cool though.
ESPHome, the entity IDs are changing for new devices. So ESPHome integration has been updated to let Home Assistant generate the entity IDs. Previously, ESPHome would generate entity IDs based on its logic, which was different to the way Home Assistant was generating entity IDs. So now they are all in sync. Everything will be right in the world. If you have an existing ESPHome device, those entity IDs should not change, I believe. Frank, you will correct me if I'm wrong.
Don't go on Reddit and make a rant now. This is nothing changes. Like your system will be fine. That's okay. But the way it works is that entity IDs are generated based on the name of the device and entity, right? It's like created from that and generated as a slug, basically. That's how every integration does it, except the ESPHome one, which has been confusing. We've now standardized it, so everything just works the same in Home Assistant, which is kind of nice. So there's no surprise there, but we definitely not breaking any existing experience. So take a breath. Everything will be okay.
2025, Frank, there's been a lot of love, I think, for cat litter boxes. We've had a few guests this year talking about their automations around cat litter. Tuya is one of those integrations that's also joining the bandwagon. So the cat litter boxes, as part of the Tuya integration, can now expose switches, buttons, lights, and sensors for controlling all your pets' automation needs.
Just to circle back to a very old saying, but do you like cats or dogs?
I'm a cat person personally.
I'm a dog person.
I used to ask that question back in the day live on stream, right? Do you like cats or
No,
dogs? Anyhow,
cats that act like dogs. So that's a fair. If there's a between there.
OpenAI now supports ChatGPT 5.1, which is good. Is there any reason why, was there any underlying need to make that, like, could we just make it generic and that anyone could choose what version of the OpenAI endpoint to use?
it's just the model that's being communicated, actually, what the difference is, as far as I'm aware. I'm pretty sure I'm aware, actually.
Because I'm sure, like in LLM Vision, sorry, not LLM Vision, Light LLM, I think I can just specify manually in a free text field, choose GPT-4. So, if a new version comes out, I can just manually override it. So, yeah. SQL, the SQL integration now supports using templates in your queries, giving you more flexibility when querying your database. That's actually a very handy one.
Talking about a way to like mess up performance, this might be a good one. Use it with care, by the way. In general, database querying, you can mess up pretty easily if you don't do it right. Doing it with templates can be more surprising.
Yeah, I guess that's more really you really want to be a power user to start using those kind of. I mean, you don't have to.
No, but it's great. It's there. Like Phil is absolutely right. But yeah, handle with care.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Be it Bang & Olufsen can now use the Baramate 1, I guess, with the Home Assistant Home Assistant, and the remote buttons are exposed. All right, cool. I guess.
The logbook card now supports filtering by state, making it easier to see specific events. This one is that's actually very useful.
Yes, absolutely.
Bar gauge. There's now a min and max option for the bar gauge feature for in your tile cards there, so you can now get a little more granular control over the gauge range. I don't use the bar gauge, but I know a lot of people that do, so that's cool.
And that's all those little incremental tweaks to make the dashboard just that little bit nicer.
Yeah. And it's also helpful for sensors that don't set the min and max, right? Because then it would be pretty useless. So being able to set it now is also nice for those cases.
Yeah, totally agreed.
All right, let's talk some new integrations. Aerobot, you can now control and monitor your Aerobot smart thermostats for intelligent floor heating via a local REST API. So thank you for making a local REST API.
Yeah. Anglian or Angelian? One of the two. Water.
I trust your adjustment.
In the UK, you can now use that smart water meter to track water usage and consumption costs. Hey, we were just talking about that. That's great.
Backblaze B2, if you are a Backblaze B2 cloud storage user, you can now use a storage bucket as a backup location for Home Assistant.
I love this one.
Yeah. So Frank's fully your.
Yeah, no, but like, don't get me wrong. I back up to Nabokasa Cloud as well, but I back up most of my stuff in my house to Backblaze myself. I'm a customer. I like their offering. I like my NAS and my computers and such. I back up to them. Being able to also send my Home Assistant backups there, it makes it now for me the single spot where at least everything is there, is stored, right? And it's nice to see. And in the end, like it adds to the choice of where you want to store your backups. And choice is important in Home Assistant. So this is a nice one to see. It's a big, well-known provider that a lot of people use and care about. Nice, just nice.
Yeah, that's cool. It's I really dislike my provider, but they are cheap. So I'm like kind of stuck to them, and they force an app on you. It's anyone wondering, it's Crash Plan.
Right.
They force an app on you. I'm grandfathered into this like SMB plan that I signed up for years ago, and it's like it's so cheap. Restores are like super cheap and I think free. Whatever, right? So it's like kind of like
I
the
used it
cost.
back in the day too. It was nice.
Yeah, but
Or is, I don't know.
they started locking it down a lot, so which is I don't love, but all right, Ascent or Ascent.
Ascent.
Why am I reading all of the ones I can't pronounce? Ascent. There we go. Thank you.
Ascent. Yes, it's from the Netherlands, so that's
from the
easy.
Netherlands. There you go. So they monitor dynamic electricity and gas prices there through this integration, and you can bring in the variable pricing contracts into there as well. So that is nice.
Usual or a Google air quality. Sorry.
Wow.
That's just me.
Thanks.
You can now use Google Weather as a source for weather data, providing current conditions, hourly forecasts for the next 24 hours, and a daily forecasts for the next 10 days.
Hannah, I can pronounce this one. Fetches pool water quality data from your Hannah pool controller device. So you can bring in pH, chlorine, ORP values, and the water temperature. That's nice.
Unless it's Spanish, of course, then it's Hannah, I guess.
Yeah, it could be. I'm going to say
Anna. No, Hannah. How do you say it? I don't know.
Philips Hue BLE, so the Bluetooth lights can now be directly controlled with Home Assistant without the need for a Hue bridge. So that's actually very exciting. I know Philips sort of did a double take. They did a, hey, we support Zigbee and they can also put Bluetooth in these new versions of our light bulbs. So yeah, I think that's very good that you can now directly control them with BLE.
Yep. And another one I can't pronounce. I'm going to say it's Sonum. Integrate your Sonum Lil SAUNA control unit to precisely control temperature and monitor your sauna's operation. There you go. I'm pretty sure Phil laid these out so that I would struggle with every one of these.
Yeah, that's it. That's what it was all
Yeah,
me, wasn't it?
I think that's what it is.
Victron BLE, you can now integrate the Victron energy devices that support the Bluetooth low energy protocol for real-time monitoring. So if you've got some energy monitoring with BLE, that's great. I do want to start with the next. I'm not trying to stuff you up here, Rohan. There's nothing else for you to trip up on, but I do want to start with the next, the first backwards incompatible change. Template helpers, Frenck. The legacy format for template helpers in YAML is being removed in 2026.6. A new repair item will be added to your Home Assistant instance with the new syntax you need to be added to your YAML files. I now have an additional like 15, 20 odd repairs thanks to this. Is there, so I'm guessing this is just some cleanup. Like I think we are now Home Assistant is now supporting various ways to define template helpers. This is just.
So we have kept around the old syntax for a long time, right? Like for years. We already have a newer syntax for about 2 years or something. But in the meantime, we're growing and we're trying to make, or Petro is actually trying to make, thank you for contributing all of that, Petro. I know he does tons of work for this. He's trying to make it more streamlined and make sure every feature and every single type of entity is being supported in Template Engine. It is super confusing that some parts work in the old way and some parts not, and only in the new way. It actually causes problems at some point. It is time to say goodbye after all those time. So we capped it both because we wanted to avoid just what's happening right now today. But we are now so far in that it might be time to deprecate it. This is, by the way, currently not listed as a backwards incompatible change because it's not backwards incompatible, but it is good to mention. It is, if you upgrade, just nothing will change. It will work. Everything will be normal. You will get indeed a whole bunch of repairs raised, so you know exactly which ones you need to fix and adjust.
I appreciate the YAML, like you're actually giving me the updated YAML where possible. That is a big help. Thank you.
Yeah, that's absolutely helpful. He did a great job there, and it needs to happen at some point. You have 6 months for it, like 15 of them, copy paste. I'm sorry, but this is making it better, and these are mostly templates that you already had for a long time, or because you copied an older one and built on top of them maybe. But in general, this is not the syntax we should keep around, and we should start cleaning up now after all of this. I think it's fair and reasonable.
Plus, it will make, I know I look at my own templates now in the code and be like, oh yeah, I just copy that, paste it over to here. And then I look at the other syntax, I'm like, which one's the right, like, I don't even know anymore, right? Like, which one I should be doing. So just make it consistent. Move on.
Having multiple syntaxes doesn't make it clear for many people either.
No. Well, and it makes documentation hard and blah, blah. It's like, oh, if you're running version this or older, then do this. Or if you're running that, and it's like, it's just,
people don't understand it. And it is already a hard subject. Templates are complex, to be fair. We should not make it more complex than needed.
Agreed. All right. Another one that's a little disappointing, it's going to affect a ton of users, is the Domino's pizza integration. I actually don't know if anybody uses this still, but well, I guess you can because it doesn't work. But it's been removed because it hasn't been functional in quite a while, and it's been unmaintained since 2019. But yeah.
Considering how long it has been broken, nobody orders pizzas with Home Assistant. That's the lesson learned.
Pretty. Now all I want to do is order a pizza through Home Assistant.
And now you can't do it. You just have this urge to, I want to automate my pizza delivery. Yeah, you can't anymore.
Right.
Yeah. It's a fun little gimmick, but it never has been serious, I guess.
Well, Domino's are pretty, like they will, go on like they'll have they're good on their apps. They'll get a watch app when the Apple Watch first came out. I think I read somewhere that they're more of a software company than a fast food chain, right? Like they do like a lot of
I feel like every company wants to be announced as a tech company nowadays. It's more of a trend than anything else.
Yeah. All right, core and supervised installation methods and 32-bit systems. These installation methods and architectures will no longer receive updates, including security updates. And there would have been a deprecation warning for the last 6 months as well about these. If you are still using one of these installation methods or architectures, please migrate to a supported installation method and architecture as soon as possible to continue receiving security updates. I think there was a big discussion around this, 6 months ago. Like, I think fundamentally, Home Assistant had the chat like, we're supposed to be supporting old hardware and stuff, but this is just something we can't do anymore. So
there's a difference between supporting and sustainability, something that often came up. To be fair, this has been also in discussion for over a year now, public discussions as well. This is an architecture that's being formed in the public with the community, also publicly pretty much announced. I wrote a dedicated blog about it 6 months ago to explain why we're doing it on a large user basis. And some people say like, hey, you're doing away with 32-bit systems, so what about sustainability? But there are not that many users, actually, like really, really low numbers. And the complexity of keeping these systems working is high. And the build resources we have for those, like the machines that are testing on those like architectures and actually shipping Home Assistant and build all the packages around it, the amount of hours they burn in like computer resources and data centers and such, like talking about like sustainability factor, that's not working. It's very troublesome to keep them up. And the truth is, a lot of external projects we rely on, including like all the Linux distributions out there, are dropping 32-bit support. We're constantly fighting and battling workarounds in order to keep that working. I'm very happy we've now stopped supporting it. It allows us to focus development better. It allows us to ship faster. There's so much benefits for us that we can put effort in things that matter more than into, sorry for the people that are affected, but just a few thousand users, not even, probably not, that have, a lot of them, even have the opportunity to migrate to 64 bits.
And if they don't, like 2025, 11 would be their final supported, so they could stay on 2511. That's not going to
exactly
stop.
Yeah.
They could. Although I strongly recommend to migrate away.
Yeah.
It's easy, right? By the way, it's easy. Make a backup, right? And restore a backup. If you've never done that, it is extremely well working. It literally is.
Yeah, it is. And again, with the Nabu subscription, it gets even easier to back up. It goes right there.
That's true.
But you should definitely have more than one source for backup, right? So Hive's removed their support for their security products. So they've removed now the alarm control panel from the integration is gone, and the Hive API no longer supports that. So
yep,
there's that.
So shame.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think that covers 2025 12. A couple of housekeeping things before we wrap up today. Frenck, 2026 one is going. There is going to be a 2026 one release, so there'll be a January release. We'll be covering it. Our first release episode will be on January 7th next year, and we'll also be at CS at that time as well. Frenck, hope to see you there. I'm sure we'll run into each other a fair few times.
Absolutely.
We've got a couple of episodes bring out the year, so this is our last episode for the year. We have 2 more episodes coming out. We've got Network Chuck, who I've just seen in our live chat.
Yeah, he's in our
Network.
Yeah,
that guy is a legend.
And listen now on our Patreon. It will be released next week. And we've got a Josh's Smart Home. Josh from Josh's Smart Home will be rounding out the year. So a couple of great episodes to tie out the year. And we'll be back in January. Zeus, of course, of continuing sponsoring us, and we'll be continuing doing as many episodes as we can, giving them out and getting involved in the community, hearing everyone's stories.
Yeah. Perfect.
Awesome.
Frenck, thank you so much. This was probably our longest podcast we've done.
Really? It was a heavy subject, though.
I think the last one was the same too. Like last December, it was like, I know we had to cut it up into 2 episodes because we're like,
but as I took it over, right? But this is like the changes in this release, especially around automations, is something to highlight and to think and talk through. It's a huge change. I'm so looking forward to what we're going to build with this and how community is going to react to all of this and how this feature is going to evolve. And then the question is, what are we going to do next year? We'll see. Surprise, I guess.
Yeah, it's going to be a big surprise.
Leave them on a cliffhanger.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you, and thank you everyone who joined us live as well. That's it's awesome. If you want to see more of this kind of stuff, let us know. Then we can do this kind of stuff. And then, like Phil said, we're going to be at CES, so we're going to try to put out some cool content there too. Yeah.
You're on YouTube right now, live, Ron. You know what to do, right?
Like and
Hit that
subscribe.
Like button, subscribe, hit the bell.
We're so bad at this, at the whole like. It's we're clearly not in marketing, and we don't do social marketing well. So thank you for that, Frenck. But yes, that will be. Please do subscribe, and here you go.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.